Prologue, a day in Nockshin Wood. Nockshin Wood, where Hesperia lies, is an expansive forest. No smelly fog, no glass mountains, or, as some mythical beasts of strange and unforestly origin refer to them, skyscrapers. And unlike many of the forests of the world as described by sojourning squirrels of Terrarian mercantile, there is only one great stone river. Such as we hear of oft, there are many as the bands of the horizon in other parts. The one we call Flat Rock Way. It winds along parallel to the far side of the Acheron River. The river flows around the base of Nearly Mountain, upon which our lovely town resides, all at the very heart of the wood, making us quite intolerable to get to, and that's just the way we like it. Speaking of those who like to be alone, take the elders of the Squirrel Town way off in the woods of Nockshin Forest, who live in the 177th tree from town. They were half-crazy Nock and Blowhard Shin, who happens to be exceptional squirrels in their own peculiar right, notwithstanding many, many faults. They spend all their days watching us from above, if not from concern, I assure you for entertainment. They overlook the town from high above, in a tree some ways away, chomping away on those deliciously roasted nuts from Ballow's farm. Nock and Shin were Yory old dogs. It is thought they don't learn new tricks or dig new holes, nor do they really ever retire or fly. They just look silly most of the time, sitting around chewing on walnuts. And occasionally they throw one down just to see what it hit from their squashed flat, swaying in the not quite whipping wind of Nearly Mountain's somewhat northern countenance. It was from this quaint and rickety loft the two of them watched, waiting for some new thing or some old thing to pick back up. They would certainly have whatever to do about it when it showed. One day, long ago, and before any of us were born, there was a shadow beneath the overbrush. At the edge of town, in a completely normal place very few noticed at all. Nock most often just sat on a rope swing on the side porch, holding his arms up and grumbling, just as he had done every day. He sat bow-legged and his bushy tail flopped from side to side, making the shape of a curlicue. A squirrelicue, if you will. His straw hat and stringy beard complemented a once fine houndstooth topcoat. It had been worn to what I'll just call twangy. Many of his teeth had been knocked out in the rigors of youth, perhaps in the throes of some flight school chase, so he often spoke in short sentences and had to close his shriveled lips in an O fashion around his remaining huge teeth. It has never been pretty. Shin sat inside on his keister and pondered the walls, differing little in his demeanor from day to day, as it is often said, minds of some sort think alike. He wore a long, threadbare duster and chewed constantly on his own maxilla. He sat inside because Nock, incidentally, was outside. On the day in question, Nock happens to be in a particular state of bunk, so he decided to test his aim on bees. Peering out far below, the search for a fresh victim took his eyes to the distance.
Look, Shin! Mortar! 1 o'clock!
Down far below, Nock spotted the great black cat lurking about, looking for a chance to hop on some poor unsuspecting squirrel who happens to be so unfortunate as enough to get caught on the ground too far away from home. But she didn't dare venture too close to the old great redwoods of proprietary Hesperia. Not back then, lest she suffer the pain of a knock or two on the head from a crisply toasted walnut traveling at terminal velocity. They really hurt after falling from that sort of distance.
Let me get her!
He laughed.
Watch now!
Nock wound up his overly skinny arm for a pitch.
No.
Shin pushed him out of the way. Nock dropped his walnut on the floor of the old rickety squirrel shack, which rocked and teetered with nearly every movement.
Let me get her. You can't hit nothing no more. I sure got better aim than you old nutball. Give me here.
The two scuffled, and the walnut was knocked and bobbed about in the air above the old squirrel squall, till finally Nock flicked Shin on the eyeball.
Ow!
Shin cried out, and Nock seized the moment to deftly snatch the walnut in mid-tumble and flick it down. They both stopped, stock still, and watched. The walnut whistled down unceremoniously, wavering in turbulence as it ventured closer to its unsuspecting target, and then, against all odds, it blew open. Walnut bits and cat limbs flew wildly about, and the bewildered feline slumped in pain with its head under its paws.
Ew!
The visibly dotted cat looked about, stupefied, into the trees, and spotted the two mad squirrels struggling to maintain their innards as they rolled about.
Yoo-hoo! Good one!
Nock exclaimed.
I'll teach you to come around here. Yeah, you know better, girlie.
They laughed at the cat slinking off, still shaking her throbbing head.
Get out! You ought to know better by now. Be gone! Bye!
They motioned for her to scurry off. Up on top, Nock turned away, still laughing to himself.
Now you mess with the bull. You get the horn. Ugh!
Suddenly he caught a hard old right to the gut from Shin.
That's for flicking my eyeball.
Shin shook his finger once and placed it back into the crook of his folded arm.
Why, you little...
Nock said in mid-grumble, giving way to various and sundry mumbly expletives fraught with fisticuffs. They meant the very best, but good intentions, unlike Nock's walnuts, often miss their mark. Not even the surliest of the aged could have fully divined from the ether what was to transpire that day, heralded by the presence of aforementioned strange and evil black cat Morgert Wingless. They are often considered bad luck to have around, after all. Bad things just tend to happen when they appear. However, omens are too often translated into general misfortune in the course of events. The most unfortunate things occur when the evilest of us are also the most readily dismissed, as is too often true. Nock and Shin could perhaps have done more than act like idiots at this most serious omen, but who would raise an unnecessary ruckus about town, scaring others without sufficient cause? One would have to be crazy, probably the type to go about with signs crying cat, preaching the end of things, or to go off to sit in a tree all day, arbitrarily throwing things and staring at the sun, against all the advice of modern wisdom. For now, let us simply mark here this moment was when something dark began to stir, and for all their smacking around, they paid absolutely no attention to it. What was paid attention to, mind you, was but a shadow in the woods, not the cat out in the open. Cats, after all, are thought to be diabolical because they are mean, not because they are clever. The shadow disappeared into the woods, and the day slinked slowly off, and all but the harvest moon lazed about sleepily unawares, drifting into the breaking night.
Look at you now, you're alive. Oh, look at you now, you're alright. When the night